What's up, guys? Welcome back to Libertalia Game Supply. Today we're going to take a look at a Duston rank 1 level 1 spam Unchained deck. This monstrosity right here that you're looking at. Ultimately, this probably would be much better as just a general rank 1 spam deck if that's what you are going for, but for whatever reason I got kind of hooked on trying to figure out how to play Dustons this week. As it turns out, it's not easy. They're not good, especially going first. This deck is atrocious. Going second, you can do some fun stuff and steal some wins, so let's get into it. So we got the triple star Duston. This is the main Duston boss monster, and he can only be special summoned from your hand by sending Duston monsters from your side of the field, and then his attack and defense will become 1,000 for every one you send. So ideally you have a board of 5, you send 5, he's got 5,000 attack and defense, and then he acts as a little floodgate. So while he's on the field, your opponent can't flip summon or special summon any monsters, and they can't activate any spell or trap cards that are already set on the field. However, if you end up having more monsters on your side of the field than your opponent, you have to destroy them. So really, you're just summoning this for a kill shot. Ultimately, it's not really that good of a card. I don't like it that much, but it's kind of necessary if you're going to play Dustons. And so if you want the big attack to attack over one of the little Dustons you put on your opponent's side of the field to win the game, you can do it that way, but I found a better win condition with these guys down here. Or maybe not better, but like more reliable. Maybe not even that. It's a weird deck. We got Triple House Duston. So this is your main normal summon in the deck. When it's destroyed while it's face up on the field, you can special summon Duston monsters, as many as you want, as long as there's space on the field, but you have to summon a same number on each side of the field. So you're more or less going to be limited to however many monster zones your opponent has open. So if you summon one to your field, you have to give them one, then you one, then them one, and you have to alternate back and forth. And all of the effect monster Dustons, the colored ones here, have the effect that you can only control one of each at a time. So you're going to give your opponent all 4 of them because there's a drawback when it goes to the graveyard for the person that controlled it. And then you'll give them one of something else, probably one of your house Dustons if you have that much space available to you. This also means that you're ideally going second, and your best play on your first turn at that point would be to summon this thing with 0 attack, crash into something and eat all that damage, and then summon as many monsters as you can so that in main phase 2 you can set up an okay board. That's inherently pretty rough because in that scenario they're going first, and then you're essentially giving them a free turn because you're not doing anything other than taking some damage to summon some monsters, and if they filled their board you just lose. But it's what the deck does, so that's what we tried to work with. And then each of the colored Dustons, so blue Duston, red Duston, yellow, and green, they all have an effect where if they're on your side of the field and they get destroyed, they do something that is a negative for you. So blue Duston will banish a card face down from your hand until the standby phase of the next turn. Red Duston burns for 500. Yellow Duston shuffles a monster from the graveyard back into the deck. That's not really a negative. I think when the card was made, it was probably a little bit more of a negative. And then green Duston bounces a spell or trap that you control back to the hand. So if you give them one of each, like you would have to do if you have all the zones open, it's pretty decent if you end up killing them all because they're going to lose a card out of the hand for the turn, they'll take the 500, they'll lose a spell or trap that they set, and then they'll have to shuffle one back, so if that happens to be a detriment, I guess it's good enough. And then we got the 3 white Duston, the normal monster. That's another thing to note about these ones. You cannot use them for Fusion Synchro Xyz summoning, so you would only be able to use them for Link summoning. These ones you can use for any type of summon, so we use Xyz and Link in the deck. You usually are going to want to give these to yourself, so if I use the House Duston and I can summon 3, I'm going to give myself white Duston, give them blue, give myself white, give them red, give myself white, give them green, and then you have 3 monsters that you can do any type of summoning with. We got the 1 Goblin King. Maybe you could play it at 2. It just sucks because it's your normal summon, so unless you have the double summon in hand, you're losing out on like your big plays unless you already have a board established. It does gain 1,000 attack for every fiend on the field, so if you're able to do, you know, the House Duston play and give them a full board of Dustons and then give yourself a full board of Dustons, or, you know, 3 or 4 each, and then you're able to summon this thing, it's going to have 6,000 to 10,000 attack at that point, which is a win. You know, you summon all of their Dustons in attack mode, they all have 0 attack, you attack over it, that's pretty much game. It's just not super reliable. At 1, it's fun enough. It's kind of gimmicky, but the whole deck is, isn't it? And then this is where we start to stray from the other builds I was kind of seeing online when I was trying to research this. So a lot of those builds were playing the Stygian Security as an additional normal summon. If it's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you special summon a Fiend type monster from your deck. The reason I didn't like this thing is it's essentially House Duston, but you have to take the damage twice. You would summon this, crash it, take whatever that damage is, say 2,000, and then you would summon the House Duston, crash it, take another 2,100, because this thing's got 100 attack. And then you could summon a bunch of stuff, so it costs you half your life points, and there's just, like, ultimately, this is not a very good normal summon, and the rest of these are not good normal summons, so you're going to want to get to this thing as fast as possible, and if you don't have it, then you don't have it, and it's just not going to go very well. So I opted for Jester Comfy. It special summons itself from the hand. It'll bounce itself and something your opponent controls if it's still sitting there on the next turn, except that's never going to happen, so I'm using this for Xyz and Link plays. It's a free summon that this deck doesn't really have a whole lot of, and even if you were to go like with the House Dustin and only get 3 monsters on the field and you have the Comfy in hand, you can special summon it, and then you have 4 monsters to make your 13 and 31, or to link climb into your Unchained monsters. And so I've just found that it's a nice little tech in this deck, in my opinion, far above Stygian Security. And then the one Kinkabayo for kind of a similar reason. This is like the replacement additional normal summon in the deck. For that reason, I've considered playing 2. It's just it requires some setup to play 2 of them, so the 1 has been working out okay. So on summon, it'll special summon back a level 1 monster in your graveyard, and if the Kinkabayo were to leave the field, the other one would go back to the graveyard, and it does bounce itself because it's a spirit at the end of each turn. But it's similar to the Jester Comfy. You're pretty much never ending a board with one of these sitting on the field unless you mess something up. You're just going to use his effect to special summon one and then overlay or link with it. And then the triple Battle Fader. This thing, I was having a hard time going back and forth between playing the Battle Fader or messing around with the Time-Rending Morganite. This comes out in Cyberstorm Access, I believe. And it's essentially your double summon, but it also allows you to draw 2 cards for each draw phase, and then it shuts down effects of monsters in your hand. For the rest of the game, it gives you all of those effects. You get 2 normal summons, 2 draws, and no hand effects. I like this concept. It's really slow, and this deck is already really slow. And if you end up having to go first, you're essentially just going to try to dig for your House Dustin and then pass, because you're probably not going to want to summon it and let them remove it with something that isn't Destruction effect. So to work around that, I figured Battle Fader. It's a level 1 Fiend, so it works with a lot of the other pieces of the deck. It can shut off that, you getting completely smoked on that first turn that you have to pass. Even if you're going second, it's not terrible. Hopefully the game grinds out a little bit and you can use it, but I opted for the Battle Fader over the Morganite for now. Then we got the 2 double summon just because I wasn't playing the Morganite, and having that extra summon can be pretty nice for like really extending plays. You can get kind of lucky and get a bunch of bodies on board, then have the double summon plus like a Kinkabayo to get a couple extra bodies on board, and you can put up something pretty gnarly, but that's kind of rare. If you were to take this out and play something else, I could see the argument for it, but I liked it well enough. For draw power, we got the triple Prosperity. You're usually not using most of your extra deck, and initially I tried to build this deck with no extra deck at all, and I played the Extravagance and just filled the extra deck with a bunch of nonsense. But you do need the extra deck. You can make a lot of use out of it, so having the selection of what you're losing is pretty good, because if you lose your Crime and Punishment, you're in some trouble. We've got the triple Where Art Thou. If you control level 1, you can add a level 1 to your hand. If you don't summon it, you're going to take 2,000 damage. Usually you're not summoning it unless you have the double summon, because you had to burn your normal summon on some garbage in order to use this, or you're just using it as an additional like extender, so you've got the House Dustin and you want to search the Jester Comfy or Stardustin or whatever. For a level 1 deck, I think this is pretty staple. Then we have triple Piri-Rice Map. You can pay half your life points to add a monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand, so that can search anything in the deck other than Stardustin, because he's got question marks. And then Kinkabayo does not have 0. Everything else has 0 attack, so it searches, half of your deck at that point. So pretty good card. The half your life points kind of sucks, but late game I guess it could be kind of nothing. Especially with the Where Art Thou's, those kind of conflict a little bit because of the heavy cost, but man, you kind of got to just throw that Hail Mary with this deck every turn and hope for the best. And then we got Triple Jack in the hand. This thing I may cut and replace with something else. I'm just not sure of what yet. So what it does is you pick 3 level 1 monsters with different names. Your opponent takes 1, puts it in their hand. You take 1, put it in your hand, and then you shuffle the 3rd back into your deck. The problem is, if you've shown at all what you're playing, or if you have any sort of board already, they probably know what it is you're trying to search for. So unless they just are completely caught off guard by Dustons, they're going to take the thing you want. So you would, if you present them with like Star Dustin, Goblin King, and Comfy, they're going to take the Comfy because it's a free body for them. If you present them with, you know, any of those two and Fader, they'll take the Fader because it's a hand trap for them. In order to give them not a good option, you have to give yourself not good options too, and they're just going to take the one good option that you want, so you can't have it. And so it's backfired on me a lot, and so I don't know that I really like it all that much. And then to round it out, we got triple Raigeki, just because we want to go second. Evenly matched can't really work in this deck, because you need the battle phase, and you need them to have as low a monster count as possible so that you can crash and summon a bunch of Dustons. So the idea would be you Raigeki and hope that one of their monsters protects itself, and then you're able to do the House Dustin play after that. I have not found a good alternative yet. Maybe I'll cut this and this and play some sort of like Raigeki break or something that can, you know, target out certain monsters so you don't have the worry of summoning something and having nothing to crash it into, because that sucks. But yeah, this is the most lost I've been in trying to figure out what direction to take a deck in a while, so it's been interesting. For the extra deck, we got Gold Rat, 3 level 1s. You can detach a material, draw a card, then shuffle a card from your hand back into the deck. Never summon it. This is prosperity fodder, but I guess you could make an argument for summoning it. It's just if you have 3 bodies on board, you're better off making anything else in this extra deck, so you could even cut this and play an extra Zeus, we'll say. The one Lionheart, 3 level 1 monsters, it's similar to Crime and Punishment, but it acts without needing the 2 monsters on the field. Can't be destroyed by battle while it's face up. You take battle damage from battles involving this card, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the amount of damage that you took. So you are taking damage as well as them. However, if you detach a material when that happens, they can take your damage too. So he's only got 100 attack. So in theory, if you crashed into something with 4,100 attack and then detach a material that's 8,000, that's really not happening. You're going to be trying to burn for, you know, 2,000 or 3,000 at a time. This is like plan B if you can't get Crime and Punishment on the field, is to summon this and just go for it and hope for the best. And then the monsters I've been talking about. So Crime and Punishment, number 13 and number 31, they both require 2 level 1s. They're also both Fiend monsters, which is necessary for your Unchained and your Goblin King, so that's something. And when they're both on the field, they both gain the effect of this card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects while it has Exceeds material, and your opponent takes any battle damage that you would have taken from attacks on this card. So slightly better than Lionheart in that you don't need to detach for that damage reversal effect, but slightly worse than Lionheart in that you need 4 monsters to summon both of these. They also have the effect that you can detach material from one of them, and then that monster has to be attacked this turn. Like, that's the only target available. Also, all of their monsters change to attack position, and so usually how they'll end up working out is you're going to summon all your 0 attack Dustons to their side of the field, you'll summon your 4 monsters to your side, make your 2 Crime and Punishment, and then all of their Dustons have to crash into you, so they'll take, 2,000, 2,500 damage, something like that, which is not game-winning, but then they'll pay all of the costs for the Duston effects that got sent to the graveyard, and then whenever your opponent summons stuff, unless they remove these, they have to attack them and take the damage. So it is still pretty gimmicky, but it's a lot better than this. I've found, like, it's almost easier to get these 2 on the field than to get this thing on the field and then protect it. We got the one Zeus to overlay any of these things. If you lose one and not the other, you use the Zeus on it. And then for the Link monsters, so this kind of became a really interesting find for me. So this new Unchained Soul King Yama, I'm not sure when this comes out, but it requires 2 Fiend monsters. It has the effect to special summon back a Fiend monster if it's in your graveyard and something you control is destroyed. You can banish it and special summon one from your hand or graveyard, so it's kind of something. Ultimately what this is for is you can link any of your monsters other than the Comfy and your Kinkabayo into King Yama, and then you would immediately link up into, well, I guess you could link into this, or normally it'll be this, and then you would use this and one of your opponent's monsters to link into this. So I've been able to, on very, very lucky hands, summon Crime and Punishment and link up into the Unchained Abomination. And it was one of those, like, I was able to summon 4 off of House Dustin, I had the double summon, I had the Kinkabayo, and then I was able to put stuff in the grave, so just got super, super lucky. But that board does feel pretty cool to build off of this not very good deck, so that is an option. We've got the one Relinquished Anima, just to steal stuff. And then we've got your typical Phoenix, Unicorn, and then Appaloosa to finish it up. For the rest of the side deck here, it's not really a side deck, it's just other stuff that was an option. We got the second Goblin King, I talked about these already. And then we got the final attack orders in level limit area B, or level limit area A, not B. These are just not good. Both of them just change everything to attack position. This one specifically level 3 or lower, so the idea there would be you summon all your Dustons over to them. If they turn them to defense mode, you flip this and they all turn back to attack mode. That just isn't super useful, especially if you use Crime and Punishment. They do that also, and they do it better. So I ended up not playing them. I ended up opting for no trap cards at all, just because the main good ones, like Imperm, you could probably make an argument for, but evenly matched, you can't give up that battle phase because you really need the House Dustin, so you can't even build this as like a going second deck necessarily. All sorts of conflicting things with the way this deck functions that made it just not quite the same kind of building experience that I'm used to. But hey, hopefully you enjoyed it. If you got any ideas on how you can make this deck work any better, I would love to hear it. I mean, damn, this was quite a ride. But until next time, happy deck building. I hope you have a good one.